All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone. Tom Tabur, Tabur Football Podcast. Very special guest with me today. I'd like to introduce Aaron McLean. Aaron McLean, former wide receiver / tight end at the University of Connecticut. Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, hello everyone. As Tom mentioned, my name is Aaron McLean, former UConn Husky. Played receiver for my first 3 years and switched to tight end. My last year had to put on a little bit of weight, but it was all a great experience. And that's actually where me and Tom met before he traded sides and went to EKU.
Traded sides. Oh yeah. No, I mean, playing with you those first couple of years, definitely some of the best times of my life for sure. You were an amazing teammate, brought a lot of energy, and then your leadership ability was amazing. So Aaron, I want to start off. So you were a two-sport athlete in high school. You did football and basketball. Now there are a lot of players, particularly tight ends, like Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, guys that played basketball before ended up going to the NFL and playing a career at tight end. Then another guy, I know he was a DN, but Julius Peppers, played basketball at UNC before ultimately playing a long career in the NFL. So talk to me about how those skills translate from basketball to football, particularly at the wide receiver or tight end position.
Yeah, I would say that playing basketball and football in high school definitely helped me when I got to the collegiate level. I would say that one of the biggest things with basketball, you're jumping all the time. Like you're running up and down the court, you're jumping. You have to be athletic, and you kind of just develop these natural instincts by playing basketball. Like for example, you're going up for a dunk or something, or alley-oop in basketball, then you translate to football, I'm going up for a jump ball. And that's pretty much being a 6'6" receiver. That's all people wanted to do with me is throw jump ball. So there's a lot of different translatable skills, I think, that you can get from playing both sports. And I think that's why you actually see a lot of people that do play both basketball and football, and a lot of them end up going to the NFL because they have all those athletic traits that they develop from both sports. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would take it you're a firm believer that when you're young, you should play multiple sports as opposed to just basically hyper-focusing on one.
Definitely. I'm actually expecting my first son, and we've already had that conversation. He's going to play a lot of sports when he's young. I want him to try things. I hope he hones in on football or basketball and not like soccer or baseball because I have to go to the games. But at the end of the day, it's what he wants to do. But I think it's very important to try a bunch of different sports when you're young because every sport teaches you something different. I think one of the things I love about football, I think it's a great life teacher because especially when you get to the college level, because you'll push yourself more than you've ever even thought you could push yourself, and the relationships you build, and kind of just get a general understanding of yourself and how you work, how do you function, and how do you function with others. You can get different things from different sports, but that's why I think it's good to start young, get that foundation, play a bunch of things, figure out what you like. But there's always lessons to be learned from sports.
No, absolutely. And then I'm sure with basketball too, the conditioning element probably translated very well to football, especially being a receiver, where you're expected, where your times that you're supposed to make for conditioning tests are pretty fast.
Yeah, that was definitely playing basketball at St. Mark specifically. I think helped me transitioning to UConn, where we had a Coach Bayless back in our day, where
Traded.
Yeah, traded where breaks weren't really something we came across. But first starting off at St. Mark's where I played basketball, I had another coach that was he was a defensive-minded coach. He wanted us to beat teams by running up and down the floor, and that reflected in our practices. Like we were running to the point where people were throwing up in trash cans. So I wouldn't say now I don't know if that coaches do that. There's a lot of different rules, like you're being cruel to the kid, whatever. Back in our day, they didn't care. So being able to do that at St. Mark's and get that experience and transitioning into UConn, where I thought, it was going to be a little bit easier when we first started, but I was completely wrong. First few days, we were doing gassers and all this stuff, and I'm watching. I'm like, how? This is just a warm up. Like, how much work is this going to get?
It's a little disheartening when FSA has you completely gassed, and if FSA feels like an entire workout. And then you hear Bayless go, all right, time for the first quarter.
Exactly. But when you look back at that stuff, it all just was beneficial in training you to push yourself in, aspects that you didn't know you could. So during it, I hated it, but I think now that I'm graduated, moving on to different things in life, I always look back at that time. And whenever I'm feeling like, oh, maybe I can't do something, I got through summers of Bayless. I can get through anything in life. is the way I view it. So definitely a good experience.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, whenever I'm going through a tough time in life, that's always something I look back on. Always think about those days, getting through those Bayless workouts. But Aaron, so I do have to say, you were probably one of the most prepared freshmen coming in. So you were actually in great shape, and this allowed you to actually play right away as a freshman. So, what was that like playing as a true freshman? You played in, did you play in 10 games, or was it all the games that year?
I think it was all the games. I primarily was playing on special teams, which was, I think most people know, that's the easiest way to get on the field as a freshman. And I think one of the things that I did well before coming into UConn was training and getting the conditioning right and being hyper focused on just learning the way we're going to play, like learning the playbook, learning how we're going to do things. I think that is probably the biggest separator between people who play freshman year and people who don't, is the difference in learning the playbook and how the game changes at the college level. I think when you look at people playing high school, our playbook's very simple. Like we don't do a lot of complex schemes or anything like that.
Maybe like 3 or 4 different routes here and there.
Yeah, like it's just typical route tree stuff. But then you transition to college. There's options, there's different things that you do based on the coverage. And if you really focus on that aspect, and obviously you do the work on the physical stuff on the side, and get your body ready. But I think for me, I focused on coming in ready conditioning wise, but also really honed in on trying to learn the playbook and how we're going to play. And that helped me get on the field. I didn't see as much time on offense, but I think for freshmen, easiest way to go on the field is special teams, and special teams is really just effort. So that's something I just tried to do, and it allowed me to play freshman year.
No, absolutely. And people, sometimes fail to understand the value of special teams. Look at like a lifelong, special teamer like Matt Slater. I know you're a huge Patriot fan. That's a guy that stand out. I mean, he had, how many years did he play in the league? He played at 15 or so.
Something crazy. And he's always been on, primarily just special teams. And like that right there shows you that you can really, make a career of just pretty much effort and being where you're supposed to be. And sorry, someone's at my door. I don't know who it is, but being where you're supposed to be, and just effort and trying to just find ways to help your team win. Don't have an ego. Don't need the ball. Find ways that you can have an impact on your team, and that's where you see in Matt Slater having that long of a career, primarily special teamer. It's just something I think people got to take more value in.
No, absolutely. And then another guy I want to address is there was a Hall of Famer in Terrell Davis. He was a 6th-round pick for the Denver Broncos, I believe, in '95. And what made him stand out was a preseason game in which he laid someone out on kickoff. And then Mike Shanahan's like, all right, I want to see what this guy can do with the ball. And then the rest is history. Terrell Davis is one of the few running backs in the NFL to rush for over 2,000 yards in a season. Ended up winning 2 Super Bowls. He was the MVP of one of them, being Super Bowl 32. So he had a great career. And, again, it all started on special teams.
Yeah, and special teams will set the tone. Like, you think about all that energy of the first kickoff of the game, the crowd's pumped up. If you are the first one down the field and you crack somebody and you get your team going, that's going to transition to the offense. Offense is going to be pumped up, try to get a first drive score. Then it's all going to feed into the rest of the game. So I think kids nowadays, everybody wants the ball, everybody wants the spotlight, but that's the way that you can make an impact. Then the spotlight will come. Like later in my career, I got opportunities to play more on offense and get the ball in my hands. But starting off, it was special teams. That was the way I was going to get on the field. So it all just came down to effort and want to be honest.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then going into your second year, so you actually did get a lot more time on offense. The production, so from the outside looking in, it's like they're just looking at stats. So it's like, they're not really seeing, much production. But what people fail to realize is, hey, receivers are there to block. And, I want you to talk to everyone about what our offense was like those first 2 years at UConn. Very run-heavy offense. Obviously, we had the goal, I don't know if you remember, 61. So if you want to go into that.
Yeah, no, we definitely had a very run-heavy offense freshman year, and we had older guys in the receiver room that were primarily going to be the ones, getting most of the passes and everything, and have most of the production. So, being a sophomore, I kind of had to find my role. Like, I know there was times they wanted to use me in the red zone, but what I realized, just soon after, starting the season, where my impact was really going to be blocking. We were so run heavy, and I was a big body that could block corners, but also get in there and block linebackers at the time. And
Absolutely.
that was something that proved to be valuable for the team, just given how we played. And I think if I would have had more of an ego, but I'm not going to block, I wouldn't have saw the field. Like I wasn't. I still needed more work on some of my skill stuff, and getting quicker, faster, all those things that come with just your time in college and continuing to improve your physical self. But I had to kind of accept that role. Like, okay, when I come in, I'm going to be primarily blocking, but I'm going to block the best way I can and try to help my team win. So it's just kind of having that selflessness to do what's best for the team and find a way to have an impact. It doesn't always have to be with catching passes, scoring touchdowns, getting yards. It could just be coming down there, getting nasty, and cracking a linebacker and springing a run. Like it all comes full circle. And that's another reason why I like football is everybody plays a role, and everybody has to do their job for things to work right. And little things like, not going hard on a block or just running off on a route. It can impact the whole play. And I think, that's why it's such a good teacher too, is it, teaches you always to be focused on doing what you're supposed to do.
No, exactly. And, they always say good things come to those who wait. They always say trust the process. So there's one game your sophomore year I want to call out, and I think you probably know which one I'm going to, that Navy game. So, you're basically in here, you're pretty much just blocking, we have a heavy run game. Now, was this your first catch of the season? It was late in the fourth quarter, and you sparked an incredible drive for us with this amazing catch that, you broke for, I think it was well over 20 yards.
Yeah, that. I remember that game pretty vividly. So I remember we were driving fourth quarter. We needed a score to win the game. Our star receiver at the time, Noel Thomas, had to come out. I think something may have happened, and I got just thrown in there. I am shitting myself internally. I am like, I don't want to mess up. Like, I didn't think I'd be put in this situation. But at the end of the day, it's football. You just got to go in and play, do your best. And I was literally just running a normal drag route. At first, I wasn't open. Bryant scrambled a little bit. I popped back, and I was wide open. I saw the ball coming to me. My eyes lit up. I was like, okay, this is happening. Just catch the ball and turn upfield. Do it. Just keep it simple. So I was able to catch it, turn upfield, spark us, to try to get closer to the end zone. Didn't.
Which we ultimately did. But
we did.
We got very, very close, and then we all know how that game ended. We ran out of time. We ran a play with 17 seconds left with no timeouts, and we did not run another play after that.
Yep. Tough ending, but I was leaving that game. I was proud of myself that I was able to step in, in that moment and have an impact in that way. But definitely didn't end the way we wanted to, but helped my confidence moving forward.
No, exactly. And the big thing, I love is that, the moment wasn't too big for you. You were able to capitalize, you were able to hone in on, your job, what you were supposed to do. It's not like you haven't had reps before. You had several reps on special teams. You already had several reps on offense. You weren't the designated target, on each play, but, you were still in there making an impact with your ability to block.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that was my first few years. Like, I just really wanted to get on the field any way I could. And I think, that moment was definitely a highlight for my sophomore year. But it's just kind of that process of always trying to get a little bit better. I started off special teams, and I got put in offense more. I was blocking primarily, get that catch. And the years after that, I was able to get more involvement. So it's all part of the process of just trying to get better every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, after your sophomore year, obviously there was a coaching change, a lot of changes, particularly with the offense. You have a new OC, a guy that's, I like to call him more flashy. He's more of a, this is going to be an explosive offense. Fuck running the football.
Good old Rhett Lashley.
Talk to me about the complete 180 with the offense. And then I think, was your junior year your most productive year? I think looking at the statistics, I think that was the most productive.
Yes. Yeah. Junior year was a complete shift on offense. We were, like you mentioned before, primarily run heavy offense, focused on 61, getting 61 plays, per game. We thought that would, give us the best option to win. But when Rhett came in, it was go, 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 go. We're going fast. We're on the ball. We're constantly running.
Yeah, the tempo was freaking insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Tempo was nuts. I remember the first spring practice when he came in, I was absolutely gassed because I didn't really know what was going to happen. And we're on the ball every play. I was like, what's happening? Like, this is so different. But that offense, I think that year offensively is probably the best for us because everybody was able to get involved. Like, I think we ran the ball a decent amount. We passed it around, but we weren't one-dimensional. Like, all the receivers would come in, get catches, and make an impact to the game. And I think that being my most productive year was a lot to do with, the offense kind of giving me more confidence. Like, I'm able to go out, catch these passes, and kind of, get my feel for the game a little bit more. So I think being able to move so fast and all the different ways that the positions that Rhett put us in definitely gave us a good opportunity to be successful on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. God, I remember I was still there when that offense was introduced in that spring, and I remember this is when I moved to nose guard, and yeah, the freaking offense was moving fast, a little too fast. I just remember getting back on the ball. We couldn't even get the call from our own sideline yet, so it's just like, none of us know what we're doing. So it's like, okay, just do the same thing we did before. It's like, you guys got to get the call in faster. Like, this offense is moving.
Yeah, and I think that for teams too, like, they looked at UConn as a pound the ground run team primarily. Then we came in that year and we were passing the ball around everywhere, moving quick. And I think that was a kind of a shock to some teams for us offensively, that 180 switch. But yeah, those are good times. That was probably my most fun year in offense, just because we were always moving fast. Everybody was able to get involved, and it was just overall a good time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then just in general, if you look on paper, it was a complete 180. I don't know if you remember when Diaco was there, when he kicked the entire offense out on Valentine's Day. They're in the lift, but Diaco basically said the offense had been a chain around the success of the program, just pulling it down. And I mean, he was right. Those first two seasons, the offense definitely lacked productivity. The defense, I believe, was a top 25 defense, especially that first year. They were ranked nationally, the defense. But then, it did a complete 180. All of a sudden, going into junior year, offense finally has the ability to put up 30 points. But then the defense did a complete 180 as well. So that's the reason why the win-loss record was identical, because the defense just couldn't produce anymore.
Yeah, it was an interesting shift. I think a lot of it had to do with different coaching changes across the organization, moving parts, and people that were used to playing one way then asked to play a completely different way. So there's a lot of reasons for that. But I feel like throughout my time at UConn, we never could put all the pieces together at the right time. I think that was probably the biggest hurdle for us. Like you said, defense, top 25 in the nation for the first years. And offense, we're able to kind of get our stuff going finally. And things were on the same page defensively. So I think in a lot of to give you some perspective, there was a lot of coaching changes throughout my time there. I think I had 4 or 5 different four or 5 different position coaches that I worked with.
You had one every year, right?
Different one every year. So I think that played a role in just kind of us not being able to get on the same page on both sides of the ball. But it was interesting how the 180 happened with Rhett getting there and new coaching changes and kind of figuring out the offense a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, going through your 4 years at UConn, you were never able to quite put together a winning season. Talk to everyone, about how do you stay motivated? If you're a part of a team that just can't win, what motivates you to go through each Saturday? Do you still have the same energy that you did, let's say, your first year going into your first ever game? Is it the same? Do you have confidence in your team's ability to win a game?
Yeah, I would say that it's hard. Let me be completely honest. When you're losing constantly, you feel like you're putting in all that effort and you're just not getting results. that is tough. And I think at times, I wasn't relatively excited for like practices or games. And I think it did start to weigh on me. But one of the things I always tried to do was just focus on getting a little bit better each day. Whatever it is I want to focus on in practice, like I want to work on this today and I'm going to get better at this today. So that'll be my focus, and I'll do that and kind of stack the days. And even though if you're not getting the results, just narrowing your focus on the process more so than the results was something I really tried to focus on, and ultimately helped me get through some tough times and some losing seasons. Just trying to really focus on how am I helping my team get better? How am I helping myself get better each day? And you kind of just have to have that narrow-minded focus.
No, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So now going into year 4, big change for you. So you made the decision. Was it your decision? You switched from receiver to tight end because I think the receiver room was getting a little too crowded. And I think you had a better opportunity to make the switch over to tight end. Now, what's that feeling like, having to put your hand in the dirt?
That was interesting time. So going into my senior year, we had another coaching change. Offense changed completely again. Then I came into the spring and I noticed I had played pretty much started the year before. I came in the spring, I noticed I was at the bottom of the depth chart. I was like, what happened? But no, then we're going through spring practices. I'm not really getting an opportunity just because offense changed. There was different needs, and I was like trying to figure out a way. How can I help my team by getting on the field? What is it I need to do? So I looked at the tight end room. I was like, that room looks pretty thin. I have the body size. I think I could help that group and help the team from that position more so than I can help the team from receiver this year. So I actually went up to Coach Etzel and I said, hey, can I make this switch? And he ended up letting me do it. He said like they had thought about it before, but he ended up letting me do it. And I had to put on a lot of weight. I think I was
How much did you have to put on?
When I was receiver junior, I was probably like 215. I was a little more skinny because we were running so damn fast. So I had to get up to at least 235 to 240 was my range. So just got to eat a lot. I wasn't quite able to not always maintain it because we're always running, but that was definitely an interesting transition, putting my hand in the dirt and having the block some DN's head up sometimes. During the spring, a little bit tougher, but then I started to get my feel for it. I never would say that I became a great inline blocker. I think there was always room for improvement there. But when they started putting me on the SIF motions where I could just run across the formation and crack somebody, that's where I excelled.
That's the best way to do it. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't scared to hit or nothing. I didn't have the weight at the time. But I think more and more when I was in that position, I started to get more and more comfortable. From a receiver step or a receiving tight end standpoint, I was able to match up with linebackers. So that gave me an advantage because I was used to matching up with them. Yeah, so I was used to matching up with faster corners, switching to linebackers. I've always felt like I had an advantage to make impact, at least in the passing game. Running game, I think I could have used a few more years. I ultimately, when I look back on it, I wish I made the switch earlier because I think naturally I would have been a better tight end than I was receiver. But it turned out the way it did. I was able to play for that 1 year, and I think overall I had a pretty good year at tight end, and it was a good experience. Definitely different going into inside run versus 7-on-7 sometimes.
No, exactly. And then talk to me about combo blocks with your offensive tackles. What was that experience like? Finally working with one of us.
That was interesting. I think in the spring they got mad at me a few times because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But once I started to get the little choppy steps going, understanding like, okay, I push them at the hip here, then I go to the next level. I started to get better at it. But yeah, that was very different. Like I'd been a receiver my whole life. I never had to block a lineman at all, and trying to go in there and not mess things up and help these guys out was a little bit tough. But after the spring and going throughout the season, I got a little bit more comfortable with it, understand the technique a little bit more. I was able to get some more wins and some one-on-ones. So that was it was a good experience. Tough. I still need to put on some weight to compete.
No, absolutely.
But it was definitely, it was a good time, good transition, and I'm glad I did it in the long run.
And did they ever have you in pass protection at all?
Pass pro. Yeah, I did pass pro a few times. That was a lot easier than run blocking, honestly, because I could just kind of wait for somebody to come. That was more like stock blocking, which I was used to, like chopping up to them and
Exactly.
blocking them. So I was more comfortable in pass pro. But run blocking, that was definitely a different beast. I loved when they used to sift me across the formation. In line, I had to fight for my life that way.
Oh God, yeah. Must have been quite the adjustment. And now going through that tight end room. So talk to me about how much of an impact, Tyler Davis might have had on you. So TD had made the transition to tight end our sophomore year. So we had been in that room for a couple of years. TD's a guy that's, obviously with the Green Bay Packers now. He's been in the NFL for about 3 years. He's coming up on his fourth. So what was it like to be in the same room with a guy like that, to learn how to play the position from someone like him?
No, it was great having TD in the room. He was definitely the leader of the tight end room. He understood everything from the passing that we were doing, but mainly from the blocking standpoint. That's where I really tried to follow him and understand how can I get this right. Like he understood where his feet need to be, where his hat needs to be, what his body placement needs to look like, and what kind of steps. How do you work with the tight end on those with the tackle on those combo blocks. So I used to ask him a lot of questions specifically in the blocking game because I coming into it, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was used to stock blocking with corners, running them off if I could. But having TD in the room, he definitely acted as a leader for the room. He was able to kind of guide us and tell us different things that we should be doing, how we can improve as a tight end. So it was definitely great having him in the room and somebody to learn from, who also transitioned from a previous position to that position. It was
quarterback to tight end.
Yeah, that's even a bigger transition than a receiver than tight end. But no, definitely great having him in the room. And it's been great to see all the things he's doing in the NFL now.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, I know we're getting close to I know you got a hard stop coming up here in a few minutes. So we'll wrap up with tell me about what's your favorite memory from playing football at UConn?
My favorite memory was probably,
besides being roommates with me, of course, but
that was probably lower on the list. No, my favorite memory is probably the Houston game. To be honest, man, like that was one of the coolest atmospheres I was in throughout my time at UConn. We upset an undefeated team. Nobody in the country thought we were going to do it, and having everybody storm the field was such an awesome experience. And the way the game played out, like. A double pass was it fourth quarter? We had the double pass, I think.
Fourth quarter, it was Tim to Garrett, and then Garrett to Noel.
Yeah, Tim to Garrett to Noel, and having that go through, and the atmosphere was just insane. So I'd have to say that was my favorite memory. And honestly, I wasn't even like a huge part of that game, but just being involved in that atmosphere is definitely something I'll always cherish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. No, that was definitely one of my favorite memories at UConn as well. Yeah, I'll never forget seeing my dad on the field, and I was just like, what the hell are you doing here?
What's going on? But no, that was awesome, man. I'll never forget that, honestly.
And then because of that win, we actually got to go to a bowl game, which back then was the first time UConn had done that since 2010. So it had been like a 5-year stretch without going to a bowl game, without having a winning season. Still haven't had that winning season yet, though. Still haven't had that winning season to this day.
Almost had it last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost got it last year. I think, they lost to Marshall again because we lost to Marshall our year too. They lost to Marshall again. But
I played I played Marshall at Eastern Kentucky as well, and it didn't go well there either. Marshall always had our number wherever we were, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Jim Moore Jr.'s he's doing his thing. He's trying to right the ship, and hope we can get a few years out of him. If he keeps seeing success, I can see him going elsewhere. But
he won't be there for too long. Yeah,
it definitely seems like he has a program on the right track.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be exciting to see how they do this year. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. Love to have you as a guest again. And go Huskies.
Go Huskies. I appreciate the time, man.
Absolutely, buddy.
All right. Have a good one.
Tabur Football Podcast. Signing off.